Hello, today I will show you how to cast on a 1x1, 2x2 and 2x1 rib. I will show you how to do a waste yarn cast on. Doing a waste yarn cast on has its benefits, even though it is a bit more time consuming. Sometimes the yarn you are using can be fragile and it might snap, as your tension usually is super tight on the cast on and circular rows, so doing a few rows in waste yarn can help you avoid that. Also, you can use the waste yarn to get a nicer edge. For example, you can make your rib tighter using the waste yarn before steaming. Let's say after you attach your rib on a crew neck jumper or even for the hem and the cuffs. I usually do a waste yarn cast on for pretty much all the ribs that I'm making. I'm trying to be as mindful as possible and not to do too many rows to not create too much waste. Once you do a waste yarn cast on for a few times, it will just become a habit and you will not even think about every step as they will just come naturally to you. So don't get intimidated by all these steps, just practice and you will get better and better. Okay, so let's begin with a 1x1 rib waste yarn cast on. First, make sure that your beds are in full pitch. Use a needle pusher and push out every other needle on the main bed and the rib bed like so. I'll be casting on 30 stitches for this example. You can see that the first needle in action is on my main bed and the last one is on the rib bed. Okay, so I'm going to knit one row in waste yarn. Will place my comb and weights and I will knit a few rows with the waste yarn. The next step is to knit 3 rows on main bed only. To do that, press both partial cams on the ribber bed carriage. They will go into PR position. Now the ribber carriage will not knit. After knitting the 3 rows on main bed only, knit 1 row all needles again. Return the cams into end position and knit 1 row. We are finished with the waste yarn now. You can either chop it or put it to the side. Next step before starting knitting with your main yarn is to drop the stitches from main bed. Press both cams on ribber bed again just like before and knit 2 rows so that the carriage returns to the right side. Return the cams into end position. You can now feed your main yarn. Usually you want to knit this first row at the tightened tension possible. You can even hold a bit of extra tension when you go across. To knit circular, press the left partial cam on the main carriage and put the right cam into PR position on the ribber carriage, or the other way around. So now I knitted main bed only. And now ribber bed only. And then again main bed only. Put the carriage back to normal and you are ready to knit your rib. Next I will show you how to cast on a 2x2 rib again with waste yarn. Begin with beds in half pitch. Use the needle pusher and push however many needles you want to cast on main bed. On the ribber bed, begin with 1 needle on the left side. That needle will go in between the first 2 needles on main bed like so. Skip 2 needles and push the rest of the needles in action. The last needle on the right side will be on main bed. We'll again do a waste yarn cast on. Knit 1 row and then place your comb and weights. Knit a few rows in waste yarn. Again, knit 3 rows on main bed only and then 1 row all needles. Remove the waste yarn. Drop the stitches on main bed. feed in your main yarn. My tension is again as tight as it gets. Knit your first row, the cast on row, and then 3 rows circular. When knitting a 2x2 rib, the tension needs to be a bit looser than a 1x1 rib. Before you are able to start knitting the rib, there are 3 more steps. Step 1, you have to put the bed in full pitch. Then rack the ribber bed once so that it moves to the left. And the last step is to transfer that first stitch from ribber bed to main bed like so. Now you are ready to knit your 2x2 rib. Next one is my favorite, is a 2x1 rib. It will look very much like a 2x2 rib, but in my opinion is a little bit better than a 2x2 rib because you will get a nicer, tighter finish. This time I'll do a cast on without waste yarn, but you can of course choose to do it with waste yarn if you wish. So my beds are in half pitch. I'm going to use the needle pusher to push 2 needles in action and 1 out of action across on main bed. Push the first needle on ribber bed so that it goes in between the first 2 needles on main bed, and then push the rest so that you have 2 needles in action and 1 out of action across the ribber bed as well. Again, the last needle in action is on main bed. As I mentioned before, I will be knitting without waste yarn, so I will feed my main yarn and I will knit 1 row. Then I'm going to place my comb and weight. And then 3 rows circular. Put back the carriage to normal, and before knitting the rib, the beds will remain in half pitch. All you have to do is to rack the ribber bed once so that it moves to the left. Also, transfer that 1 stitch from ribber bed to main bed and you are ready to knit your rib. And that is everything for today's video. I really hope this video was easy to follow for you and it will help you practice casting on with or without waste yarn. Thank you so much for watching. See you in my next video. Bye bye!